Hello, welcome back to another session. This week our assignment is going to be a little bit different than normal because we're really going to be stressing ideas that are related to two or three gentlemen that are, at least as far as I'm concerned, very essential in really understanding why is it that we can even talk about the possibility of sustainability or an alternative paradigm in sustainability or environmentalism. So let me just start by really emphasizing a few things that we should definitely pay a lot of attention to. So over and above the assignment that is given out of the textbook, and the reading and the blog, definitely you have this short video. Then I have added 4 different things. The first one is only really 1 minute and 34 seconds to be very precise. It's a very short video clip by one of the top physicists in the country who teaches at CUNY, who was helped also by Morgan Freeman in this particular short clip, in which they explain in a very nice way, and as I said, within only 1 minute and 34 seconds, what is meant by the notion of entropy. The other assignment, which is obviously much more time-consuming, would be an article written by the gentleman Georgescu Rogan. It isn't easy, but it isn't that difficult either. However, probably you'll have to spend some time in order to read it and maybe even go back to it more than once. But I would like you in particular to pay attention to the latter part of that particular article, whereby he does come up with a list of some suggestions that he thinks should be adopted if the world is to move in that particular direction of sustainability, or at least into the direction whereby we will be leaving behind a shallower footprint. Now, outside of these, then I have added 2 sets of PowerPoints. One set of PowerPoints that tries to explain in quite some detail what is meant by a paradigm shift. Now, that's really a very important idea, like very many of the other ideas in this week's assignment, that maybe for most of you these might be relatively new words or new concepts or new phrases. I know of only one student who's taken some courses in environmentalism before in your group that is already familiar with some of these words. So if you're not familiar with them, you've got to really pay some attention. And if you have any problem, let me know, send me an email. Maybe I will go ahead and do probably another an audio explanation if you feel that it is important. Then the 4th PowerPoint is a PowerPoint that tries to explain in particular what Georgescu Rogan means by the concept of entropy and how it applies in slightly greater detail than the 1.5 minutes that the first video clip is going to spend on. So let me right now tell you why is it that we want to stress this. To start with, the first part of the assignment from the textbook is about Sadi. Now, Frederick Sadi is a very well-known person, obviously, but you will not find enough information about him, especially not at an intro level or at an undergraduate level. What is important about Sadi is the role that he played. He's a person who has really introduced, in a sense, the idea that was developed later on by Georgescu Rogan, that idea of entropy, as you'll find out. So Mr. Sadi was not really an economist. He was a chemist who was even awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921. But then later on in the 20s, I think essentially one of his major articles was written in 1926, in which he explains in great detail the difference between real wealth and debt. That's to say, he does make the distinction that there is a big difference between something that is fictitious and the real item itself. And that is, if you still recall, we've hinted at it a couple of times, one of the major ideas by those who critique mainstream economics, by saying that our national income accounting leaves a lot to be desired. But I don't want to talk a lot about this today, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the assignment for next week. So we'll talk a little bit about that in greater detail next week. But just read the few pages about Sadi, a one-time read only, to get a feeling about who he is and what he did. However, the second part about Georgescu Rogan, combined with the article that I have also put on Blackboard that is written by Georgescu himself, and the PowerPoint that I have also included that explains Georgescu's contribution, are really very, very essential. Actually, they are so essential that they really are the foundation of all what we know when we want to speak right now about an alternative, a credible alternative paradigm for economic development or environmentalism. Even the ideas of Dali, the dean of environmentalists right now, are in essence based on that contribution by Georgescu Rogan, because Dali's ideas by themselves would not be as valuable had they not been based on that concept of entropy. So very quickly, what is entropy? To start with, by the way, for whoever is interested, Georgescu Rogan is already he's no longer with us. He died, I think, around 8 or 9 years ago. I believe in 1994, to be precise. And unfortunately, he died without getting a Nobel Prize in economics, because it's not awarded for a person who is not alive. And I believe very strongly, like many other people, that his contributions are so seminal that they really would have deserved a Nobel Prize in economics. He used to be a mainstream economist, but when he was teaching at the University of Vanderbilt, which is one of the best universities in the country for economics, he developed that particular critique of mainstream. Essentially what he did is that he wrote a book in 1971, I think, or 1972, in which he argued that the economic process is entropic. So what is the concept of entropy? The concept of entropy is one of the single most important ideas in science. So you're not talking about only a philosopher or about a very subjective idea. It is pure science. Entropy is the second law of thermodynamics. Essentially, really what it says in the long run is that the more you do, the less you have. And that explains probably all what we're going to say, either in this course or even if you spend a lifetime studying about sustainability. The more you do, the less you have. Now, why is it the more you do, the less you have? Because the first law of thermodynamics says that matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So if they can neither be created nor destroyed, then we're always going to have the same quantity. So why should we worry? Well, we have to worry because of the second law. The second law says we can use them only once. That's to say, once you use that energy, then you transform it from the field of being available to being unavailable. It is going to be transmitted into the atmosphere whereby you will never be able to reuse it again. So it's really a one-way flow. One of the best examples that is used by Georgescu, by the way, which is a common example used by economists also and by environmentalists, is that if you have a lump of coal and you burn it in order to use the energy. But what do you wind up with? You wind up in dissipating the energy, and you wind up with some smoke and ash. Now, can you reuse that ash? Can you recapture that energy in order to use it again? And the answer is no. And that is the principle that is behind entropy. Everything that we do, and I mean everything in life, follows this same principle. You can never arrive at a greater order without creating disorder some other place. So actually, what do you do when you burn a lump of coal? You're taking something that is order and you're creating disorder from it. Because once you burn it, you're going to lose that particular order that was the lump of coal. But then somebody might raise the question, but hey, there are so many examples whereby whenever we produce something, what do? Through the process of production, we're really creating more order. But by creating more order, we're going to be creating more disorder some other place. And again, maybe the best example that is given about this normally would be if you take a tray of water and you put it in the fridge. What happens to it? It becomes ice. So you take something that is disordered, that is water, and it becomes very highly ordered when it becomes ice. So is this a violation of the law of entropy? And the answer is of course not. Because the only way that you could transform the water into ice is because the fridge was plugged into an outlet, into an electric outlet. And that electric outlet was receiving energy from a power plant that was creating all sorts of disorder some other place in the world. So yes, it is possible to create order from disorder, but the only way that you do it is by creating greater disorder some other place. Which means simply what? As you can see, the application for this, of all of this to sustainability, is that ultimately any process of production is really creating greater and greater and greater disorder. Therefore, the world as we know it is always in a state of becoming more and more disintegrated. So you cannot speak even about sustainability. If you are then to come down to the nitty-gritty, you will find out that even this notion of sustainability is a notion that will be rejected by, if you believe that the economic process is subject to the laws of entropy. And as a result, therefore, you're left with only one solution, and one solution only. In order to extend life, not that you're going to be able to have sustainability, then you've got to adopt simplicity. The greater is the simplicity, the less is the preoccupation with growth and with production and what have you, then the longer will be the availability of life as we know it, because then you'll be able to extend it over a longer period of time. So having said this, do read all of these assignments, watch the video, and let me know if you feel, for one reason or another, that you want us to talk a little bit more about this. Because keep in mind one thing, that this is not really a diversion. I honestly believe it is the single most important idea. Without it, the whole world would not have been really able to talk in a meaningful way about an alternative paradigm. So with that, let me bid you farewell one more time. Thank you.